Dear audiences, thank you so much for being here for today's event. It's a pleasure for me to be able to speak to you on such an important topic as the one today. I'll be taking you through State of Green and the organization that we are, as well as the work that we do, before going into some of the historics and the key learnings that Denmark has obtained over the last 50 years in our green transition. So, introducing State of Green. We serve international political and key commercial decision makers like those of yourself and put into play Danish solutions and strongholds in order for us to collectively drive the green transition. We have the prefix of being a public-private partnership, and we believe that this gives us the certain credibility as well as a well-established large network for us to match the right international stakeholders together with their Danish peers and counterparts in order for them to be inspired from one another and collectively drive the transition. We were founded back in 2009 and were established by the government on one hand and the business organizations here on the other hand. We have a range of corporate sponsors, some of which you are likely already familiar with, some of which we will hear a bit more from later today. They support us in the work that we do, as well as the opposite way around. We support them in the work that they are doing, and all this obviously greening the society that we are all a part of. One of our most important assets in doing so and in inspiring foreign stakeholders from the learnings that Denmark has gotten is through our website. Here you can find more than 600 Danish partners, all representing different aspects of the green industry. Together they represent a little more than 1,400 Danish solutions and competencies that you are welcome to go and explore yourself. Other than our website, we provide tailor-made visitors programs for about 200 delegations each year that we welcome to Denmark and show them around what Denmark has to offer. We welcome delegations from all around the world, and what these tours or what these visits here bear is that the delegations, they have the possibility of meeting the technical experts and seeing things for themselves out in the field, be it on these different farms or facilities that we have pictured here. As well, we publish sector-specific white papers, as you can see here. The one we'll be talking about today is the one we have here, and I won't go into details with it now because we have some of the speakers with us today who's co-authored parts of it, and I'll leave the floor for them to make you all the wiser. But it's free of charge, and you are very welcome to go have a look at it yourself. It's obviously available online as well. So to briefly sum up what State of Green do, we share knowledge, we foster relations, we put into play Danish strongholds and competencies together with international stakeholders in order to tackle the global challenges that we are all dealing with, and finally to draw the green transition collectively through collaboration and through partnerships. What we don't do at State of Green is that we don't sell or service products and partners, and neither do we partake in project development. We are strictly not for profit. So that was a bit of an introduction to State of Green. As promised, I'll put a few words on the historics and some of the key learnings that Denmark has gotten over the years. Because what you might not be aware of is that back in the day, Denmark wasn't the green nation and the green front runner that we are today. Denmark was, together with Japan actually, one of the countries in the world that was the most dependent on imported oil and energy. So when the oil crisis came, Denmark took a soaring hit, and it was indeed a wake-up call for new measures to be taken. Both long-term as well as short-term measures were taken. What you see here, for instance, is car-free Sundays, which were imposed as a means to short-term measure. But more long-term, we saw a need for securing our energy supply as well as diversifying our energy mix. And this was essentially the very beginning to the development that district heating has undergone over the years to where it is today. Now, there are obviously a few mention-worthy other historics. I won't go into details on it because we don't have time, so I'll just run the slides quickly through here, skipping up until more recent times, because what we see here are some very happy politicians who are celebrating that they recently signed a legally binding climate act in Denmark, stipulating that by 2030 Denmark are obliged to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 70% compared to 1990 level. As well as stipulates that Denmark has to put an end to our oil and gas extraction in North Sea by 2050. And as well, I wanted to mention briefly these 13 climate partnerships here initiated by the government together with the private sector. But I'll get back to that in just a second, because I wanted to stay along a little more for the situation that we are in today. What you see here is what we call the Danish example or the Danish model, and it conceptualizes the fact that since the 1990 Denmark has grown its GDP by more than 66%, while at the same time sustaining our energy consumption at a relatively stable level, and all of the same while decreasing our water consumption as well as our CO2 emissions by around 40%. And this whole means that the green business can indeed be good business. And while this is not strictly unique for Denmark alone, there are about a handful of other countries who can brag about the same. It is something that is significantly important in the efforts that is transitioning towards a greener society, and something that we are very proud of. If we look at the energy mix in Denmark as of today, we can see that renewables cover more than a third, and in 2050 our objective is to make this number increase to 100%, so we still have a long way to go. But if we break down renewables as of today, we can see here that biomass covers about 50%, while solar and wind power just a little more than a quarter. This is something that we will see increase in the future, and biomass is something to decrease because we are working towards phasing out biomass, considering it a transition fuel indeed. And a little history on district heating in Denmark. It's more than 100 years since the first district heating plant was established. It saw significant development in the 70s, with the whole case being the oil crisis and the swift change that Denmark had to make at the time. It's something that has been supported politically, incentivized over the years. And looking into the future, it's something that in 2030 we will see being covered by 100% renewable energy sources in Denmark. And a few more facts about district heating in Denmark. We have 1.7 million Danish households currently supplied with district heating. We have 60,000 kilometers of district heating pipes providing the Danish district heating network. Half of it supply, half of it return. It covers and holds more than just about 1 billion liters of hot water. And we have a little more than 10,000 workers in the total Danish workforce employed in district heating sector alone. This graph here I won't go into too much detail with, because you are probably already familiar with it, but it serves as a very good example of how we will get there eventually. And it is defined with these 4 generations of district heating dating back to the very beginning, a little more than 100 years ago. And it shows that in order for us to meet our objectives, we have to increase the efficiency in our district heating system. We have to do that by lowering the temperature in the water in the pipes, and we have to include and implement as many energy sources as possible to balance the network this way through. Obviously the speakers after me will go into more detail on this on various terms, but before essentially meeting our final objective of becoming net zero in 2030, we are looking at sourcing up to 55% of our energy from renewables, while at the same time covering our electricity consumption from 100% renewables. Hopefully at that time as well we have reached our objective of becoming or of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 70%, again compared to 1990 levels. And then when looking into 2050, or sorry, before that, as I promised, I just wanted to mention about these 13 climate partnerships, because it also shows one of the most important aspects, and that is that we all work together. All parties need to partake in the work that has to be done. And these 13 climate partnerships here, they are initiated by the government together with the private sector, and they scope at a full range of the industries that we have in Denmark. Together they've come up with more than 400 recommendations on how to reach this 70% reduction target within 10 years. And we have already seen that some of the suggestions have been implemented into policies. One example could, for instance, be within agriculture, where we have seen that the withdrawal of low-level soil has been imposed as a foundation from these recommendations here, for instance. So in 2050, Denmark has become a low-carbon society. We are 100% relying on renewable energy in our consumption. We've put an end to oil and gas extraction in the North Sea, meaning that Denmark is actually the first major oil producing country in the world to do so. At this time we will also be producing more energy than we consume, which means that the excess energy we will export to neighboring countries as well as other countries in the world. And we have managed to move from a circular economy to, from a linear economy towards a circular economy, essentially meaning that we will put more efficient use into the resources that we have in hand today. So what have we learned over the years? We have learned a lot, obviously, but an important take is that we have learned that through a holistic approach to collaboration across sectors as well as borders, it is indeed possible to drive this green transition and to meet our objectives if we work together through collaboration and partnerships. And that is possibly the most important offset that I wanted to give you with today's presentation. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the event.